the music of Chumbawamba, the music of the Beatles. Who made the bigger social impact? You might find out, and I don't know about that, with Jim Jefferies.
Close call.
I don't think anybody knows.
You can't.
There's no way to find out.
It's a hard way. You'd have to ask everybody in the world what meant more to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you get knocked down and you get back up again, pretty good message.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better than Lucy of the Sky with Diamonds, which
What the fuck does that mean?
Which is very clearly gibberish.
We got merches up and running, right?
Merch is up. I don't know about that.com.
We got cunt mugs. I've been selling cunt mugs now for close to 15 years. I started with my manager, Brett Vincent in Britain. Hello, Brett, if you're listening. He and me and him used to sell these cunt mugs afterwards.
They didn't say, I don't know about that on the other side.
Yeah, they used to send me webpage and thing. Now it's like, I don't know about that. Now the handle says cunt. It's all, these are very nice. The ones that I sold were very basic ones. I used to autograph the base of them and then I think it would have lasted one wash.
Yeah, probably. I originally wanted to do mugs where at the bottom it was a middle finger, so when you lifted it.
Oh, I don't like the ones where they put something in the bottom. Your spoon hits it.
No, I meant at the bottom underneath.
Like
so you're like this.
Yeah.
But nobody drinks like that.
I do.
You would for effect.
At the end to finish it.
Can I have a few of these to take home? I want more hats as well. My wife stole my hat.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I took a hat back and she liked it so much that she's wearing the hat. The hats are very good.
I do like the hats, yeah.
I like the hat too.
I need more hats.
All right, well.
Do I have to buy them?
Well,
like
what's the URL where he can buy some more?
He can get them at I don't know about that.com.
All right.
I'll put in a request.
Yeah, I think we can get you one. And then our Patreon.
We just did a Patreon episode. We recorded one before the podcast. It was a cracking one with Michael Yo. Very, very funny.
With Michael Yo, make sure to watch his special.
We did a lot of slap talk about Will Smith, and we did a lot of talk. We told a good story about when Michael Yo got me in trouble with Justin Bieber.
And his special is called I Never Thought, and it's Michael Yo. You can go on YouTube and watch it. It's like we said on the Patreon, 28 minutes. Watch our good friend Michael Yo special.
And Aunt Viv from the original Aunt Viv.
Wait, don't spoil it.
No, wants to slap Michael Yo.
She does, but find out why. Yeah, patreon.com/IDKAT.
Or you can Google it. She said it in an article.
Also, this isn't, we're not the improv.
We can hear Michael's reaction. You won't read that in an article.
You can see his face. Well, anyway, still subscribe to the Patreon. And then we have $1.25 worth of
Oh no, this was a good episode. It's $1.60, man.
I'd say $2.
If anything, I
That's
want
a
to bump up
$2
the rates, man. But you know, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the shop now. Everything's on there. The mugs, the hoodies, the t-shirts, the Be Cocky shirt. Good Night Australia. The hats are on there somewhere. There's a picture of Jim on a mug.
Tote bag. Yeah.
I don't see the hats on there. We got to get them. Uh-oh. Well, maybe they're just ours. Is that possible?
No, I think
we get those hats up there.
They make a good Christmas in July present. If you who does that Christmas in July?
Is that a
people
thing?
like to have fun.
Yeah, but in Australia, it's just in summer. Don't get me started.
And then on Instagram.
If you mention breakfast food, I'll be here all day.
On Instagram, IDCat Podcast. Follow us. It's growing, that Instagram, but it should be bigger based on our listeners. Then follow all of us on there, you know? And Jim, where are you going to be? Where were you just?
I was just in Grand Rapids.
I was Green Bay.
Are you having a stroke right now?
I was in Green Bay. I think we all know, because we're recording this podcast first and we're releasing it later. I think we all know what happened there with the nuclear fallout.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was crazy.
Who would have thought Russia would have targeted Green Bay?
I know.
Cheeseheads.
I tell you what, I was reading that the other day. It's like my wife had Googled if Russia attacks with nuclear weapons, what city would they hit first? It's like New York, LA is like the two top ones.
Yeah.
And I'm
Shut
like,
down the entertainment
you
industry.
gotta live your life.
Well, you will be in Edmonton and Calgary, April 21st, 22nd.
Edmonton, Calgary. We got an extra show on the Thursday in Edmonton.
On Thursdays is Edmonton.
Edmonton, and
21st,
an extra show in Calgary on the Sunday. The Friday and the Saturday shows are sold out.
So, yep, 21st and 24th are still tickets for. And then you'll be in Cleveland and Detroit 2 weeks after that. And I'm going to be at the Grand Comedy Club this week in Escondido. So if you're local in San Diego, come down to Escondido and get a burrito and a burrito.
I got to tell you, Canada, I'm looking forward to going back. It's been a couple of years. Quarantine has kept me away from you. I'm looking forward to seeing my Canadian people. They've always showed up for me. They've always been good crowds. And here's a little secret thing. There is a Canadian date, not these dates coming up, where I'm planning on recording a special. So I've never done a Canadian special, but I'm gonna do one. It's gonna be me dressed as a lumberjack drinking maple syrup from a cup.
Oh, that sounds nice.
The end of Dexter.
From a cunt.
Maybe this cup. Yeah.
I love maple syrup.
You guys want to I have a quick segment.
Sure.
There's a new Coca-Cola flavor out, and I have it. It's called Starlight, and it's supposed to replicate what space tastes like.
What?
Oh yeah,
Oh, you actually have the product?
I have it.
Is it chilled?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in.
Can anyone get this now, or are we like?
Yeah. It's at the store right now.
I thought we had like some.
Why did you tell me what it's meant to taste like? I wanted to taste it and tell you what it tastes like. And you've
also, I love that he wasn't. He's like, I've got this thing now. I have to get up and go walk elsewhere.
Kelly, thanks for the support.
I'm supporting you, Jack.
All right, don't tell me the flavors.
Yeah.
Don't tell me the flavors.
I don't know what the flavors are.
Yeah, but you can Google it, and I will tell you what the
Ooh,
limited
this is
edition
so
Starlight.
cold.
Oh yeah,
Starlight.
I don't drink much Coke, but when I do, I drink Coke Starlight.
I like the can.
It's a little tiny can. Makes you feel
Oh,
like
I've got a taste in mine.
This is like it's like cotton candy.
Yeah, it's cotton candy.
No, it's what space tastes like.
Well, space tastes like cotton candy. I hate to break it to anyone that's never been there.
It's like a light cotton candy.
There's like cinnamon
There's
after.
no citrus in it. There's a cinnamon overtones with
Really? I'm not tasting any cinnamon.
Are you getting
there's like an
the
aftertaste.
mossy?
at the back of your palate. Right?
This is not going to be a good ad for them, but this tastes what some vapes smell like.
Yeah, it does.
It tastes
This is
like
not sponsored. I just saw it.
It's very close. It's not like cherry Coke where it's a very defined different thing. It's very close to Coke.
vape.
I'm going to say it's bubblegum Coke.
It tastes like a vape smell. There's a
Yeah,
person
that's a
that's
good
in my house
description.
whose vape smelled and tastes like this is it.
I mean,
Right.
last night when we were trying it out, we were like, this would go great with Jack Daniels, and this and Jack Daniels is like money. It's really good.
Jack Daniels makes me want to puke though.
Well,
It's-
maybe not with some
the
Coca-Cola
fact that
Starlight.
they've actually written space flavored is like, stop treating me like a moron.
Well, they
Yeah,
have
but
another.
but it got people to buy it.
They have another flavor coming out in May called Bite, and it's supposed to be what Pixels taste like.
That was going to be what
Pixels
What,
taste
like
like?
the cartoons?
No, Pixels just like what makes up a digital
I
screen.
thought it was going to be saliva
Oh,
flavored.
So don't
This-
worry.
This
I'll
one
get us
tastes
some
like Buzz
Coca-Cola
Lightyear's
Bite.
cum.
Come podcast. Yes.
To
I like
infinity
it.
and beyond.
I mean, I wouldn't drink. Oh my God. Not finishing that.
In space.
I don't know
nobody
if anyone's watching at home. For some reason, in the last 30 minutes, I've just been grabbing my dick. I just realized I was squeezing my dick like this, just out of comfort. And
Starlight.
and then I thought, oh, there's a camera. I better move my hand to here. I'm in Jack's house. It's a natural response. Oh, we're in Jack's house recording this
Oh, yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
New location, number 25.
Yeah.
of our
They're the
locations.
The
nomads of
improv had a
podcasting.
few
Renovations.
renovations
There's
happening.
gonna be a couple months of renovation.
So the room's not available. So we came to Jack's house, and now it's like we should be here all the time.
I know it is way more convenient to drive here.
If you go, it's very nice. It's very nice. But he does have a movie poster of the Bee movie.
Yeah.
signed by Jeffrey Katzenberg,
Well, and there's also Flushed Away over here on this side.
which was just signed by people who lived in the house.
there's a gym wall back here.
Yeah, I set that up for the podcast.
There's
on top
also
of the piano.
too many throw pillows for me. I realized that. I'm like, I got to get out of these.
Is that me doing stand up? That
Yeah.
picture?
It's stand up. You walk with the camel and you in South Africa and the
Oh,
ghillie
that's
suit.
a cool stand up picture. I'd like that picture. Why can't I have that picture?
So now your home decor is
Where'd you
going to
get it
Jim's
from,
house.
Jack? It's probably Jim's, right?
I took it.
From where? From the show?
That's Sydney.
He
I
took
think.
the picture itself.
Oh, you took the
I
picture.
I took all
Oh, I
those.
can't see it. It's behind me. I have too
Okay.
many throw pillows. I can't turn around.
It's a very,
Next week we should recline
it's a
these.
very artistic picture. It looks like
It's in the book I gave you, I think.
Oh yeah, I got a book. Yeah. There you go.
Goes to show that
Jack's
Jim,
feeling
Jim has
underappreciated.
not opened the book.
No, I have opened the book. Oh, yeah, it was a very nice gift.
All right. Well, that being said, maybe we should read some ads.
Yep.
Or
See our
introduce
guest.
our guest.
Maybe we should.
We'll see. We'll let the editor decide what happens
Yeah,
next.
let Luis decide what happens.
Luis has been very quiet today.
Yeah.
It's way over there.
Oh, Luis, did you want some Starlight?
Yeah,
I mean,
you can-
that would have been nice.
you can have
I've been-
mine.
It's just
I've
in
been
the
curious.
fridge.
You can
It's
have
right next
mine.
to you.
No, it's okay.
I'm not
It's
going to
okay.
drink it.
Today's episode is sponsored by Honey. We all shop online. We've all seen the promo code. Phil taunted us at the checkout.
Let me take my glasses off.
Twins.
But thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. Honey is the free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo code and applies the best one and finds it for your cart. Honey supports over 30,000 stores online. Imagine. Just imagine.
Mhm.
Okay.
Everyone sit back, close your eyes. Doesn't matter if you're driving, do it anyway. Imagine you're shopping on one of your favorite sites.
Mhm, I'm
When
there.
the checkout, you get the checkout, right?
I'm
The
there,
Honey button just drops down and
Oh
all
my
you
God, I'm
have
close.
to do is click apply coupons.
Oh my God, yes.
Wait a
Yes.
few seconds, and now
Ah,
Honey searches for coupons
Yes.
to find for that site.
yes.
If Honey finds a working coupon, the prices will drop. Oh! I bought a swing set. I bought a
Gotta
swing
wake 'em
set.
up.
I bought
Hey,
a.
we just came. Wake
Yeah,
up.
I bought it. I mean, that's how Forrest does it. Man. And I bought a swing set for my kids. Me and the wife are back there swinging back and forth. Geez, we're having a hell of a time.
Swingers.
I saved a lot of money on this thing, about $100 or something. It was a lot of money. I saved a lot, all through Honey. Honey has found us over 17 million members, over $2 billion in savings. If you don't already have Honey, you could straight up be missing out on the savings. It's literally free and installs in a few seconds. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this podcast. You listen to this podcast for free
So
and you're not supporting us.
Jeez.
I'd never recommend something I don't use. Even there's things I use that I don't recommend.
Yeah, that's true.
Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/IDK. That's joinhoney.com/IDK. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating well and dinners that will work for you, not the other way around. Green Chef options are for every lifestyle, including keto and paleo, vegan, vegetarian, fast and fit, Mediterranean, and gluten-free. They don't have my diet there, Philly cheesesteak. I don't know if that's a thing.
They do have Philly cheesesteaks.
I know, but
That's in the
you
Fast
just-
and
you
Fit
just- you just
program.
yeah,
just
I
straight,
see it as a way of life.
Okay.
Whether you're looking for carb-conscious, gluten-free, plant-based, or calorie-conscious options, or you just want to have a delicious, balanced dishes, Green Chef has flavorful, feel-good recipes that are sure to satisfy. As the only, I didn't know they were the only ones. As the only keto meal kit on the market, go look for others. They don't exist. They don't exist. Green Chef makes sticking to a carb-conscious lifestyle easy. Green Chef's vegan and vegetarian recipes are full of plant-based proteins and wholesome sides. I'm usually not a big fan of vegan meals, but we've been getting the vegan things because my wife is annoying and vegan. And I got to say, they're all right. They're all right because I'm pretty conscious.
Yeah.
I eat a lot of my food in the car. You know what I mean? But this is good. Need variety? No problem. Green Chef offers 24 always changing recipes to choose from every week. So you get to choose from 24 recipes. You'll never get bored. Green Chef's fast and fit option is the ideal option for eating well when you're strapped for time, with recipes under 700 calories and ready to eat in 25 minutes or less. Green Chef's pre-portioned ingredients means you'll actually reduce your food waste by 25% compared to grocery shopping. How many times you buy something and you cut a tomato and then you throw the rest of the tomato out and you just have one slice of the bloody thing? It's waste. I hate waste.
Yep.
HelloFresh Global Food Waste Study. So if you eat delicious food and help save the planet, what more could you ask for?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't know.
No, it's true. They give you exactly what you
They
need.
give you what you
chop
need.
it up. You put the sauce in, the spicy, the meat,
Yeah, the bibbidi bop.
the greens.
Go to greenchef.com/I don't know 130 and use the code I don't know 130. Now I know what you're thinking. Why have they put 130 at the end?
$1.30 off.
Because you get Kelly.
13.
It can't be probably $13.00.
No.
Yeah, it has to be.
No, it's $130 off plus free shipping. Go to
What?
greenchef.com/I don't know 30. Use the code I don't know 30 to get $130
I don't know
off.
130.
Huh?
I don't know 130.
130.
Yeah, you were saying I don't know 30, but it's I don't know 130.
130.
Yeah.
Green Chef, #1 meal kit for eating well.
All right.
Okay, now it's time to welcome our guest, Jonah.
And now it's time to play.
Yes, though. Yes, though. Yes, though. Yes, though. Judging a book by its cover.
All right, Jonah is here to talk about wrestling. He's got wrestling figures in the back and he's got a belt there. I don't want to go too in like it's the WWF or the WWC or the WW.
Maybe he just likes wrestling and something else.
No, he looks like a wrestler, sounds like a wrestler, has wrestling stuff behind him, wrestling fanatic or wrestler. I don't know. I don't follow the wrestling, but I'll give it a go. I did when I was a kid.
Yes, professional wrestling. That is what we're going to talk about. Jonah is a pro wrestler from South Australia. He has wrestled in 15 different countries over the past decade, most notably known for his time in the WWE as Bronson Reed. He now goes by Jonah and works for well-known companies such as New Japan Pro Wrestling and Impact Wrestling. He's also an avid fan of the business side of professional wrestling from its inception all the way to its modern era. Thus, he's on our podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at Jonah is here, and IG, same handle at Jonah is here. Jonah is JONAH. Thanks for being on the program, Jonah.
No, thanks for having me. I hope it's an interesting topic for you guys to speak about.
Are you from New Zealand or
South Australia.
No. Yeah, I don't want to get you cancelled, Jim.
Oh, yeah. You're not Jonah from Tonga, are you?
He's already cancelled.
I haven't seen those episodes for a while. You grew up there. Yeah, from South Australia. It must be fucking early in the morning, mate. Thanks for getting up.
Well, I'm actually in Orlando in USA now, but originally from South Australia. I've lived here for the past 3 years, and I miss meat pies dearly.
I'll hook you up with some meat pie companies that ship them out to you.
Yeah.
I have freezers full of meat pies. I can't help it.
Yeah,
Do you ever have
I'd be happy.
You ever have the Traveller? The Traveller is what 7-Eleven brought out. So you got your 4 and 20s, which is square, and then they brought out a meat
You
pie.
love the Traveller.
The Traveller is the greatest invention of all time. They made a long one so that you could eat it in the car and it wouldn't spill over you. It's
brilliant.
like fucking hell. We had round technology that whole time, and then we had sausage rolls. We had long technology, and then they made it into the
Long
Traveller.
technology.
Yeah. It's a good 7-inch pie. And off you fucking go, maybe 5-inch.
When I went to Australia with Jim the first time, there was literally we hadn't been landed more than a couple hours. You took me to get shrimp or prawns, as I like to call them, to show me how much better they were, and then you got me a Traveller. You got me a Traveller. Like we're at a gas station. We gotta get a Traveller.
we were doing a documentary that never went anywhere because of COVID or whatever. And it was lunchtime, and there was this place. I got to give them a shout out, Brookie's Pies in Brookvale. That's the best pie in the country, man. That's the best fucking pie. And so I went, I just got to go to Brookie's Pie. So the documentarians followed us down there and then fucking went into the shop and went to the guy, hey, you got Brookie's Pies? And like, we're just filming this documentary. And they're like, as many pies as you want. I'm going to be on telly. And then the documentary got cancelled because of COVID. So it just sounds like we went in there and just fucking stole a lot of pies.
We're with the Food Network.
All right. Well, we're going to ask you some questions about professional wrestling. And then after we're done with that, we're going to ask Jonah how you did. 0 through 10 is the best score. 10 is the best score. I mean, out of 0 through 10.
I got one more thing about the pie. So I go in there. There was a lady, and she would eat the pie, and she'd eat half a pie, and then I ate my pie, and then they went cut, and then the lady came up to me and said, hey, can I have a photo? My brother's a big fan. I said, no problem. And then I saw her leaving, and I went, you're not going to eat that? And I ate a stranger's half of a pie.
Fantastic.
I ate a stranger's half of a pie in the middle of COVID.
Worth it.
That's bold, man.
Yeah.
All right, categories.
So Jonah's going to grade you on accuracy, 0 through 10. 10's the best. Kelly's going to grade you on confidence. I'm going to grade you on et cetera. And then we'll tally those together. This is the first time our guest has made the categories.
All right.
I make these. 21 through 30, main event. You know what that is.
Yeah, the main
okay.
event.
11 through 20, mid-carder. And then 0 through 10, curtain jerker. I'm assuming curtain jerker is not good. Right?
No.
I've been one of them. My mum used to get fucking mad at me. all those stains at the bottom of the curtain. I was more of a curtain cleaner. I didn't jerk with it. I'm not an animal.
Yeah, it's more like someone that starts off the show. I guess similar to comedy, you have people that start the show, and then you have people that finish the show. That's sort of how wrestling works as well. You're jerking the curtain. You're first out.
Yeah, I like that term, curtain jerker.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah, we should call the openers that now.
I'm going to call Forrest curtain jerker.
Well, it depends who's first. If it's me or Amos or JJ or Lisa, you curtain jerker. What is the difference between wrestling and professional wrestling?
Okay, one of them's one and one of them's the other. So there's wrestling, which is like what you see in high school, where you wear those things over your ears and you start in like a doggy position. And I've seen enough American films where it's just like fucking you're meant to wrestle and you're in that stupid outfit. It's the most homoerotic thing I've ever seen. And then professional wrestling is I don't want to be mean, Jonah, but not real. It's a performance piece where they're flinging around the ring and they're doing big stunts and all that type of stuff.
Well, they get paid, right?
They get paid, yeah. It's also a paid thing, of course.
That's the professional part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
What?
Greek wrestling, that's another one altogether.
Roman Greco?
Yeah, where they sort of stand there, Gordon Gecko wrestling. And they sort of get in there a bit. And then you got sumo, which is, I would call a form of wrestling as well.
Okay.
Yep. Or it's sumo wrestling.
You're right again.
It's in the title.
Nailed it.
10 out of 10.
What is WWE? What does it stand for?
World Wrestling Association.
Association.
It's on the internet.
Enterprises or something. I don't fucking know.
What about, it was formerly WWF.
World Wrestling Federation.
You know why they changed it?
It's because of the animals. The animals is the World Wildlife Fund.
Okay. And then there's also NWA, NWO. I don't know if you know. Those.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of different factions and stuff like that. I watched the who's the big Andre the Giant documentary. I thought it was very good.
Mm-hmm.
He had the fucking shit in a bucket on planes because he couldn't get into the little toilets.
Oh, no.
And so
Andre.
they'd pull the curtain to the side. Me, I hold my poo in for the whole flight.
That's where they got the term curtain jerker.
Yeah. There's a good story, actually. Andre the Giant, he used to wrestle in Japan. He didn't fit into the Japanese hotel room toilets, so he used to shit in the bathtub.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Bit of fun.
Yeah.
Someone shit in my
God.
bathtub at a party
must have been
6
him.
years ago, and it could have been him.
That's when you were living in Japan, right?
Yeah, Long Beach, Japan.
What are the rules of pro wrestling?
Well, like you might have something
How
that's
do you win and stuff like that?
you got to pin him down for a 3 count. Dunk, dunk, dunk.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's things like, okay, they say there's rules, but I've seen Mr. Fuji hit a cunt with a chair. And he wasn't even involved in the fight. He was just a shit stirrer, Mr. Fuji. The fucking junkyard dog was running around. He was fuming. He might have been managed by Mr. Fuji. I can't remember.
Any other rules besides pin him for a 3 count?
No, they seem to be able to throw you out of the ring. Yeah, you can't be out of the ring for too long. There would be a time limit outside the ring that you have to be back in there. But then there's separate rules for things like cage matches where they'll put the belt on the roof and you have to go up and get that to win. There's different, there's different categories. There's tag team. There's Royal Rumble. With a tag team, you have to tag the person before they come in. And unless you just decide not to and you'll just start fighting each other. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff like that. Oh, they've just gotten in the ring and they're hitting each other. Oh, no.
Yeah. What was the golden age of pro wrestling? Or what is? Because maybe it's now.
I would say the golden age was the era with Hulk Hogan and, all that stuff, the junkyard dog, the bushwhackers.
Why would you say it's the golden age?
George the Animal Steel, because that's when I was a kid and I was watching it. But I feel like that was when the ratings were, maybe it's different, but that was when it went from, because wrestling used to be in different fractions. So like when, who's the man on the moon?
Neil Armstrong?
No, Jim Carrey played him.
Andy Kaufman?
Andy Kaufman was doing all that stuff where he was wrestling women and all that type of stuff. And then there was that guy, Jerry, whatever his name, who slapped him on Letterman and all that type of stuff. And he was a wrestler from the South. And everything was in different divisions around the country. And then satellite TV, ESPN type of thing where you could broadcast it across. And that's when it became United. But it used to be regional television. So I think just after that, and that's like Andre the Giant was working in some federations and all that type of stuff. When they sort of united them all into the one thing, Vince McMahon would have brought in the golden age of wrestling.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I was like, who revolutionized professional wrestling?
Vince McMahon.
Okay. You know anything about him?
I believe he was somewhat of a wrestler himself, but his father was big in the wrestling, and then Vince took it he was a promoter, and then Vince took it to the next level.
Okay. And then when did like the trash talking start? And like what? Like, before, let me ask this. Do you know, Jonah, like how far back professional wrestling goes? If I ask that, like
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I know the whole history of wrestling.
So how far back does professional wrestling go? Like what year?
I think it would go back to the answer for all questions ever in entertainment is vaudeville.
That's a good guess.
Yeah. So it would go back to the Great Depression, and people would have wanted to watch that for entertainment. But also you got to think about like Mexican wrestling with the masks
Luchadores
and all that type of stuff. And I've seen that in LA. There's a couple of guys dressed as chickens and a few dwarfs come in. It's fucking brilliant.
You know what it's called?
Yeah, what Jack said.
I know.
What
did he say?
Horchata. Anyway, the Mexican wrestling, probably, so I think in that form, over 100 years.
Okay. And then the trash talking and that kind of stuff, was that?
I think you would always, you can't have a guy slap you in the face and just do nothing and stand there.
No, like before, like before the matches and stuff, that kind of.
Oh, where they interviewed, in the 80s, that was a big thing where they started doing the storylines of like, you have to meet me for the Royal Rumble on the beach with the thing. And there was that guy with the tash who was always in the bow tie. He goes, the people are very upset with you. What are you going to do? Oh, no, I'm Jimmy Stewart. I don't remember his name, but I remember seeing him on TV a lot. And I think he's recently dead
Mean
Gene Simmons.
Mean Gene Okerlund.
And so he gave the show a little element of, this must be real when you're kids, because he was talking. I'll tell you who's really big into wrestling, who will show me clips, a famous friend of mine, Freddie Prinze. Freddie Prinze loves the wrestling, and he does a wrestling podcast every now and again. And he showed me once a clip of, there was like him and not Freddie and Hulk Hogan. There was two guys, and I think maybe Hulk Hogan was dead on the mat. And then like they go, oh no, he's dead. And before Hulk Hogan did that thing where they lift the arm up and it dropped. I used to lose me shit as a kid. He lifted up and then he'd point like that. And you'd be like, it was like when Popeye ate fucking spinach. And then he would go hell for leather, brother. Right? But there was this thing, there was this one bloke, it was laying, he was like dead. It was either Hulk Hogan was dead or the other one was dead. And the other guy got up onto the turnbuckle, I think that's what you call it, on the corner ring. And he jumped down and he went boom onto his chest. And it was like a bolt of lightning. And then he just came back to life.
He's like, clear.
Yeah, like he was on the clear machine, right? The defibrillator. Is it defibrillator? I don't know.
Defibrillator.
Yeah. So he's on that. And then he stood up and said, oh, brother, whoa. And then he just started beating the shit out of people. And they reckon that was one of the defining moments where wrestling got a bit silly.
You know what?
You know that incident, Noah? Jonah? Sorry, Jonah, you know
I
that?
do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. WrestleMania 5 happened. Yeah.
Number 5, man.
Do you know what kayfabe is?
That's Korean wrestling.
Okay. Do you know what WrestleMania is?
WrestleMania is the big tournament that you have each year. WrestleMania is the big, that's the US Open. That's the Masters. That's the big event.
And how does a wrestler choose their either gimmick, personality, finishing move? How do you think?
Okay, well, I think if you're a villain or a hero or you're a curtain opener or something like that, I think that probably you would have some say in it. But I believe there's so many. It's like anything. There's so many people trying to get these jobs that I believe that management and the show would point at you and go, "You're going to be a winner." I miss the old corny characters. Like there used to be a bloke when I was a kid who was just like a posh millionaire, and he came out with like a monocle or something, and he was like, "Ooh, super English," and then like, "Ooh, blimey," and then he'd start beating people up. And then you have these people like Hulk Hogan was a hero, and then you have these people who are villains who would get their ass kicked every now and again. And
so you think that's?
I think it's engineered like a script. You'd have some say in it, but I believe that promoters and managers would push you in a certain direction. If you want to be on the bill with us, this is what you will do.
So do you think all matches are predetermined?
I believe that all matches, for the most part, are predetermined. I do, however, I know that there's stories of like some wrestler was told like you're going to go down in the 2-minute mark, and he's the finishing move like that. And there's been some wrestlers that are like fuck this and just slap the other cunt for no reason.
Okay, a couple more questions here. What are faces and heels?
A face is the skin that goes over your skull.
Okay,
and the heel is at the end of your foot, Forrest.
Yeah. Sorry, that's the wrong podcast.
Okay, no. Heels are the baddies. Heels are the baddies. Heels are the people who are meant to be the Nazis. I'll say faces are just not the winners as such, because I think there'd be a different term for them. I think faces are just people who are easy rub beats that are put in some of these early rounds, just people who are proficient in it.
What's a jobber?
A job would probably be what I just said a face was.
What about a pinfall?
A pinfall. I would say that's someone who is used as an easy beat over somebody.
Okay, and then a couple more questions. Oh yeah, here we go. Sorry, another page. What does it mean to take a bump?
You get a little bag, you get your key, you shove it in there. I hope you're listening, kids. It's called blow, but you don't blow. You breathe inwards.
It's weird.
And you put the key up to your nose, and some people call it a key bump, but then when you get really into the drug, you just call it a bump.
What is a receipt?
Something you don't get for a bump. Try not to leave a paper trail, kids.
I thought maybe these are the wrong questions. Who is a jabroni?
That's the thing that makes the ice nice.
Okay. Last question is I'm going to say something, and it's either a wrestling move or a cocktail.
All right.
Okay.
This sounds like one of Jack's games that
Everyone makes fun of me for.
Months and months to prepare for.
Royal Arrival. Cocktail or a wrestling move?
That'd be a wrestling move.
Snake Eyes.
Ooh.
I'm going to say it's a cocktail, but Rowdy Ronnie Piper used to keep a snake in a bag that he used to just pull out. He was a Scottish bloke who used to like to fight in a kilt, and then he'd bring a snake out and just fucking throw it around people's necks.
I think it's a different guy that the snake.
No, Jake the Snake.
Yeah,
Jake the Snake. Yeah, that's probably yeah. Jake the Snake did that.
It'd be weird if he didn't have a snake.
Rowdy Ronnie Piper just did a lot of Scottish shit.
So cocktail. You said, all right, stinger, cocktail or wrestling move?
Well, a stinger in baseball is when you hit and it hurts your hands. So I'm going to say that a stinger is like when they go doom, when you go ooh, like that with your body.
Bull shot.
That'd be a shot. That'd be a
Irish whip.
Irish whip. Oh, yeah. You whip them across the thing. I always thought they throw them by the arm and then they hit the ropes and they bounce back and they run back and forth and they duck and all that. I would say that's a wrestling move.
Wolf ram.
Come again?
Wolf ram.
Wolf ram.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's a wrestling move.
Gut wrench.
Gut wrench would be a cocktail.
Frog splash.
That's like a green
I would say cocktail.
Two more. Missouri mule.
Missouri cocktail.
Boston crab.
Boston crab would be a wrestling move.
That's one of my favorite. All right. It is.
What, cocktail or wrestling move?
I knew it was a wrestling move. The Boston crab hold. That was like one of the ones I could, it's indefensible. All right. Jonah, how did Jim do 0 through 10, 10 being the best out of knowledge of professional wrestling?
I was quite surprised that, for someone that hasn't watched it in a long time, he was pretty proficient in everything pro wrestling. So I'd probably give him, I'd say an 8 out of 10.
This is the thing is I've done very well in wrestling, porn, and TV.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Everything else with like science or history or fucking school. Yeah. Anything that takes real learning.
There was another one you did really good on too. I don't remember the
James Bond.
James Bond.
Yeah. I did all right in James. Anything in entertainment.
Yeah.
I did poorly in stand-up comedy.
Kelly, how do you do in confidence?
I was actually also going to give him an 8. Even the ones that you didn't know, you answered them confidently. And so
9 plus 8, 17. I'm going to give you 5, 22. You're not in the main event.
Main event.
Right.
You're a headliner. act like it.
There we go.
I like the wrestling back in the day when it was kids, and then I watched it again, and it just got a bit sinister with all the Undertakers and stuff like that. I was taking a bit of a dark turn. What was that TV show we watched, Jack? It was with my son. I get the two of you mixed up. So, there was a thing like we were watching all the interactive things on Netflix, and there was this one thing that was an interactive show with wrestling, but it showed no wrestling. It was just the stories of like, should the Undertaker do the dishes or should he go to bed? You know, it was really, it was some poor ass TV, but we watched the whole thing.
So I asked Jim, what is the difference between wrestling and professional wrestling? First, he said one of them is one and one is the other. It's my favorite answer.
It's true.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about just the differences between wrestling and professional wrestling as you see it?
Yeah. Your common wrestling is like what Jim said. At a high school, you have amateur wrestling or Greco-Roman wrestling or freestyle wrestling, which is now used a lot in MMA. And then pro wrestling is what was derived from that. And is a work, I guess you could say, or it's fixed. And basically, it's adding the entertainment to the amateur wrestling.
Yeah. Has anyone ever tried to do with the outfits and all that type of stuff the wrestling properly, or is that just UFC?
What do you mean by properly?
Like, if you ever tried,
Olympic style, like they would Greco-Roman.
Do the WWE or the WWF wrestling, but actually have a go.
Like Greco-Roman style, you mean?
Yeah, but just like, I'm going to punch this guy from jumping on the turnbuckle and flipping it on me back and see if that really works. Or pile driving someone.
You mean in the Olympics?
Yeah.
They just in real life just go, hey, how about we actually fucking do it this time?
Yeah, I've seen it done. I've seen people backstage do things to each other that would surprise you.
For the most part, you all must get along, right? You all sit backstage and play cards and stuff like that. But there'd be like any business or any workplace, there'd be cunts you don't like. You're like that.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like a traveling touring business. You know what I mean? Like anything, like, I don't know, even like sports, like you have your sports teams, like the Lakers or whatever. Everyone on the team is playing for the team, but at the same time, you have your stars and stuff. So sometimes there's rivalries backstage, but generally everyone is pretty cool.
And also, you don't need to comment on this next bit, but you've got 15 guys backstage that most of them would be on steroids. There must be a bit of raging. That's what they should bring into fucking the WWE. We're going to start drug testing.
Yeah, well, they do drug tests, but I don't know how well those drug tests are done.
Oh, really? I thought it was just entertainment. It's like, oh, we're going to start drug testing the early Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. This doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
We're going to drug test Rocky IV. Like, if there was ever a movie where the whole premise is that Rocky's just working out in the fucking wilderness, but Drago's using drugs. Oh, shut up, Sylvester.
Or if you got drug tested back in the day before you had to do a show.
If they drug tested me before Alcoholocaust, I wouldn't have been able to make that special. I signed a new stand-up deal a couple of years ago just for touring and stuff like that. And before you do it, they, rightfully so, you're signing a contract with a touring company. They make you do a medical, and they check and you do a full physical and they check that you'll live long enough for the contract. You know what I mean? And I feel like going, you're giving me one of them now. This is the healthiest I've ever been.
All right. I asked him what WWE is. He said World Wrestling
Association
and Enterprises.
Association.
What does it stand for, WWE?
It's World Wrestling Entertainment.
So
wrestling nowadays, so much, a lot of companies will still call it pro wrestling, but WWE refers to it as sports entertainment.
Okay. And then there's so many different groups, because he did get the WWF right thing.
Yes, he did.
The World Wildlife Foundation, because I actually donate to them. I have a shirt, and then something just popped up right before this podcast for that. But
do you class it as a sport, Jonah?
I class it as sport. Like, I think it is sports entertainment. I mean, you do have to be athletic, and there's a lot of training that goes into it. I think a lot of people don't realize. what you have to do to be a successful professional wrestler.
Oh, I don't underestimate that. It's very athletic and all that sort of stuff. But then we get into this sort of weird. So is cheerleading a sport? Is Cirque du Soleil a sport?
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think cheerleading is definitely a sport. Like cheerleaders are some of the best
but
athletes out there.
no winners and losers, and no.
Yeah, there are other
when they're in the competitions.
But it would be the same as wrestling. I think there's a level of athleticism that probably surpasses many other.
But there's
athletes.
comedy competitions. Am I doing a sport?
Well, it's not. There's nothing athletic about what you do. I've seen you run, dude.
Nor is there darts.
Yes,
There's
I like to consider it a violent art form.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a dance.
Yes,
between two large sweaty men
or women
or more.
Oh, women. Oh, yeah.
And so WWE is obviously the pinnacle of this, but there are many other different organizations, right? A couple that.
Yes. Yeah. So I worked for WWE up until last year. Now I work for New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is based in Japan, and for a company here in the United States called Impact Wrestling. So there's quite a few. They have television products as well. But WWE is the one that most people are aware of.
Now, I assume we call it in comedy an open mic circuit, where how do you get into wrestling? Is there, because I've seen like these videos of these people who do it in their backyards and these kids who film themselves doing the stunts. Do they find you out, or do you just fucking, you like Jackass, beat the shit out of your friends and try to do stunts and then just go, we've got something? Is there like low level clubs you can go to and show off your wares
or something?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So the way I started in wrestling was in a backyard. I was wrestling with my mates, just trying to do cool things. And then there are pro wrestling schools. So a lot of old timers in the business who no longer perform, they will open up a school and they'll teach you how to become a professional wrestler, show you the ropes, you train, and then you go on the local independent circuit, which I guess is like open mics. And you can travel around. Pretty much most countries have an independent circuit where you're not getting paid very well. You might be getting paid $50 a match, if that.
Yeah, no.
And that's sort of how you break into the business until eventually you can wrestle somewhere that has a television product like WWE.
Wow.
Is that where the phrase "show you the ropes" came from?
Well, maybe boxing.
Probably boxing. Probably boxing.
Yeah, it's funny because it's in comedy, same thing. Like you're doing whatever you can, these bar gigs, this and that, and then you start off and you might just make $50, but the difference is you don't have a concussion afterwards.
There must be wrestlers that come along in the same way when we see like a hacky comedian who's doing sort of cliche jokes or easy punchlines. Or they've got like a fucking persona where we're like, we get it, you're slightly autistic and awkward, right? Like, you know what I mean? So there must be guys that are coming along and it's just like, oh, I'm dressed as a warlock or something, and my finishing move is a slappity slap, and you're like, oh, we've seen it, buddy. Come on.
Yes, yeah. You get a lot of the cliches, especially on like the independent circuits, and to sort of break out and try and be seen by a big company like WWE, you have to have, I don't know, something to you, I guess. Same as like comedians, same as musicians as well. I think it's a very similar thing.
What was your persona? What were you? Were you a good guy, bad guy?
We're still wrestling, but you mean?
So what is your persona? Yeah.
I'm a bad guy at the moment, so I'm a heel. So
and Bronson Reed was a porn star?
No.
That definitely sounds like a porn star.
Yeah.
Bronson Reed
his
was
finishing
my,
move was the whip, where he smashed people to death with his dick.
It's doable. But no, Bronson Reed, that was my WWE character, and I was a good guy actually in WWE.
And
I was the big lovable guy.
Do you enjoy being a good guy or a bad guy more, or are there pluses and minuses to each?
There's pluses and minuses to each. I prefer being a bad guy. I think everyone is attracted to the villain more, like whether you want to boo them or they're just more interesting than your cliche sort of good guy. But that being said, being a good guy, it was nice to meet fans and do things like that. The bad guys don't really do that stuff.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess because you can't break that persona where you're like, hey guys, come on
Can I get a picture? No, fuck you.
I once was checking into a hotel in Manchester, and they were having like a big sort of royally rumble thing in the north of England where all the stars, and I think this is like back in the day, like John Cena was there, and you know, like this was way back, so in the early 2000s, and I remember seeing them. They all had to check into the hotel the same way I fucking did. They'd all gotten off the bus with their roller bags like, oh, fucking, they don't have the keys ready for us. Fuck this. Is fucking, where are we? Is the piece of plastic in your wallet doing enough for you? Because the secure Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card, you can start building credit with everyday purchases and on-time payments. You see, the Credit Builder members can increase their credit history with no annual fee or interest. And having good credit score can mean getting better car loans or car rates, or you want to rent an apartment, you need good credit for that, or just bragging rights around dinner. You ever at dinner, you're like, hey, how are you? People don't want to date you if it's around 500. They don't want you. They don't want you. You got to bring your debt along with them. You want a high credit score. Yep. The women will be all over you. Or the men. I don't know what you're into. So continue your credit journey with Chime. Sign up takes only 2 minutes and doesn't affect your credit score. Get started at Chime, chime.com/IDK. That's chime.com/IDK.
The Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card is issued by Stripe Bank and pursuant to a license from Visa USA. Chime checking account, $200 qualifying direct deposit required to apply for the secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. Regular on-time payment history can have a positive impact on your credit score. Impact score may vary, and some user scores may not improve.
Rules of professional wrestling. Jim said pin for a 3 count. And then other than that, he said Mr. Fuji hit someone with a chair. He said, didn't seem to be a lot of other rules besides that. Is there anything we're missing there?
Yeah, I think, and Jim's right to a degree. There are so many different types of matches. So you could have something called a hardcore match where you're allowed to use weapons or do whatever you need to do to win a match, basically. But your standard match that you would see, the rules basically are you have to pin your opponent to the ground for a 3 count, as you said, or you have to make them submit. So you get them in a submission and they have to give up verbally. Other than that, as you said, if you're on the outside of the ring for more than 10 seconds, you lose the match, and you can get knocked out. If you don't answer a 10-second count, you can lose the match, and you're not allowed to eye gouge, bite, or any of those things. They're frowned upon.
But George the Animal Steel, he used to go bite the fucking...
He did.
He used to go... There used to be the foam bit in the corner. He used to lose his shit. And he used to just start biting the fucking material off and have foam in his mouth. He was the best. Was he mentally challenged?
So a funny thing about George the Animal Steel is he was actually a scientist.
No. He was used in science.
It's funny. A lot of those personas where those people are big, wild characters in real life usually are not that at all, which is funny.
Lack of a better term, I thought he was like a simpleton that they just sort of shaved down. You've ruined my childhood.
You ruined it?
Yeah, I've ruined it. I completely ruined your childhood, yeah.
Yeah, it was like what Jim was saying with the folding chair, like Mr. Food. I remember watching when I was a kid, because that's when I watched the most. And it was like Hulk Hogan, Randy Macho Man Savage. And I just remember watching him and be like, but the guy's cheating. The referee clearly has to see it. Because he'd turn around and he'd be like, all right, I'm selling things over here.
Being a good ref, I hope they get paid well, because that's an art form. The guy who's so easily distracted.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So especially, what?
Yeah. He's supposed to be in the ring. He's like, what's going on over there? What was the golden age of pro wrestling? He says it was Hulk Hogan, Junkyard Dog, the Bushwhackers, George Animal Steel. Like, is there?
Yeah, I think most people consider that the golden age of wrestling. The 1980s is when rock and wrestling became a thing, and wrestling sort of became mainstream. You had the first ever WrestleMania, and you had crossovers with like Cyndi Lauper and people like that, and that's when it became really popular.
It would also be, I'm a big fan of the documentary, The Toys That Made Us.
Yeah.
It's a 3-part documentary series about the toys that we... Anyway, so they have an episode on the WWF characters, and what would have been F back then? They sold gangbusters, and once the toys came in, and there was also, you could punch them in this, and they had the movable arms and all that type of stuff.
Stretchy arms.
And then they came in and you could wrestle and that type of stuff. So I imagine that was because when the toys broke in with the kids, because I remember, watching the wrestling, there was a definite moment with Hulk Hogan where people started dressing up like him and stuff like that. We never really had Halloween in Australia, but I reckon that went probably pretty well here, just like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I think figures, things like that, like definitely what shaped my childhood as well. Like, as you can see, I still have wrestling figures now. Yeah. One of them is me, actually, which is incredible.
All right, I'm gonna quiz you here. Who was Hot Lips?
who was Hot Lips? Are you talking about Hulk Hogan and Rocky 3?
Yeah, Rocky 3. Thunderlips.
Thunderlips.
Quizzed it wrong.
That was his name.
Yeah, Thunderlips.
Hot Lips from Mesh.
Hot Lips was from Mesh.
Different show.
I knew what you're talking about though.
She was already always wrestling with Burns.
Jonah, it was funny you said Cindy Lauper. I mentioned that before the podcast. I was saying,
Yep.
I remember in her video, what was the guy's name with the rubber bands in his beard?
Captain Lou Albano.
Captain Lou Albano. And I remember her having the wrestlers in her videos. And now looking back, like as an adult, I realized like that did really bring it in. Like Cindy Lauper was this huge pop star at the time. And I was like, that did bring it in everyone's household. You're like, well, Cindy Lauper's in the wrestling. And and she had like all those wrestlers in her videos and stuff.
I still enjoy watching the footage of Jay Leno throwing people around the ring.
I've never seen Jay Leno wrestle.
It's worth the watch. Jay Wrestling was in the wrestling. He came in there. He was the Tonight Show host at the time, and Jay Leno just showed up. I think he's in his denim. And he went in there and fucking beat up some wrestlers. You also got that, obviously.
Diamond Dallas Page versus Hulk Hogan and...
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's not wearing denim. He's wearing a t-shirt.
Right. But he goes in there and he whip turns him. He throws him across the ring. And it's like, Jay Leno's got moves, man.
He's got Hulk Hogan here in an arm lock.
That's a big thing. You know, there's a lot of celebrity crossover with, especially
Dennis
WWE.
Rodman was a big one because he wasn't meant to be away from the team. And he went off and did the bloody wrestling.
And then there was Celebrity Deathmatch, on MTV for a long time with the Claymation or whatever it was.
Yeah. And most recently, Logan Paul was in WrestleMania on the weekend. So stuff like that.
How do you feel about Logan Paul?
In
wrestling.
He did a good job, to be honest. If you watch his wrestling match, he did a good job. So I can't hate him. I met him
in a lift with his girlfriend in Vegas recently, and she knew my stuff and so to speak. He was very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I'm not going to shit on the guy for no reason. He was very nice. And then I was up playing blackjack to the wee hours. He came up and said hello when he walked past me again. So he was very nice.
Yeah. Revolutionized professional wrestling. Jim said Vince McMahon. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan. So Vince McMahon was the one that he got the company from his dad, Vince Sr., but he made WWF something completely different, you know, with television, the MTV generation, and his biggest star was Hulk Hogan. So those two together are what catapulted wrestling into the
And what
mainstream.
was I know I loved Hulk Hogan as a kid. I'm trying to think of, and by the way, he was in that movie with me and David Hasselhoff. I never saw it.
From our Patreon. Yeah, there was
Well, I think it's on our Patreon. I tell a whole story about that film. But I think Hulk Hogan was cut from the movie because he had his controversially said the N-word somewhere in a sex tape or something. Oh no, on the phone. Or I don't know. I don't know what happened.
N-word in a sex tape would be such a bad. Was it in a sex tape? That'd be so bad.
Well, he had that sex tape, didn't he?
I know, but
he did. Yeah, he did.
Anyway,
there's race play. People are into.
What were you going to ask? Hulk Hogan was what?
What was the appeal of him? Like I guess he was a giant man first of all, and he
the
had
bandana.
You know, well, that was because he was going bald. That was a lucky thing. But it was like, mate, was it that he was like a blonde surfery looking guy? And
I think a big thing. I mean, I'm not so much sure Australia, even though I was a huge fan of Hulk Hogan as a kid. I think because he was larger than life. Super tan, blonde man screaming at the camera. But I think here in America, he very much was the good old Christian boy as well. He always wore the cross. He talked about saying your prayers, taking your vitamins, drinking your milk before
Hulkamaniacs.
bed. Hulkamaniacs. So he's very much the ultimate good guy for Americans.
Well, you know what I think it is, and maybe we can jump ahead on this one, or the trash talking thing is like, I think he was very good at that too. Because I remember as a kid watching the two people that I remember that were the best at doing that was Hulk Hogan and Randy Macho Man. And to me, that was like the big thing with the trash talking. I don't know if Jim said it started in the 80s with the storylines. Maybe it started before then. I don't know if you can speak to that.
I think it pretty much started like, you know, your wrestling sort of became more, it became a television product in the 40s. And with that inception, you needed good guys, bad guys to be able to sell fights. So there was a good guy, there was a bad guy, but they didn't speak as much. You know, they would have managers represent them. It wasn't until the 70s, 80s when the wrestlers themselves would speak about their life, their characters, and then get involved in these storylines, which created drama, which is great television.
Yeah.
So Hulk Hogan also became a baddie at one stage.
He did.
I want to say with the NWA, But there was something-
NWO, very close.
NWO,
NWO.
yes.
NWA is what he was saying in the sex tape.
And then he became a good guy again. Like,
Didn't he take Randy Elizabeth? Was Elizabeth his manager or was just his wife, Randy Macho Man? And
Both. His actual shoot
Elizabeth.
wife, and his manager on screen.
Didn't Hulk Hogan steal her away at some point or something? I forget what.
Sort of. The story was he thought that Macho Man wasn't treating her right because he was a jealous sort of husband. And then he wanted to protect her, and then it created a rivalry between them. And that's when you would have saw that clip where he dropped the elbow on his chest and Hulk Hogan came to life.
he came to life. You got to see this clip, man.
Yeah.
He gets up so fast.
Yeah, he's dead. And
and then he takes the other guy off the turnbuckle. Oh, I remember that outfit too, Randy Macho Man. Now that you're showing it to me, that was a crazy outfit. That was. Yeah.
Right.
I don't even know Revolution. Okay, Golden Age. Okay.
Yes.
Do we know how far back wrestling goes? Jim said vaudeville. Everything's vaudeville. Watch for entertainment. And also it says Mexico wrestling is called horchata. Here, I don't know. I think that's right. So over 100 years, yeah.
Yeah. So the first sort of what you would consider fixed matches were in the 1880s. So after the Civil War, circuses and traveling carnivals became a thing, and they would have wrestling or grappling matches on the show. And then the people involved in the carnival would take bets from the local people and then tell one of the fighters, hey, lose, so they could win all the money.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first sort of inception of pro wrestling that we know today, was in the 1880s. And then it kept spiraling to there until eventually in the 1940s, they got a television product. 80
years ago in Australia, you might know a bit about this, Jonah. We used to put big red kangaroos in tents at carnivals.
Yes.
And then we'd say, see who could bloody knock down this kangaroo. See if you can have a go. And that's where they turned the boxing kangaroo, because the kangaroos are natural boxers, and then they'd reel up on their legs and just kick them. Now, it's very hard to knock out a kangaroo because they're a tripod. They've got the 2 feet.
And their heads are tiny.
Yeah, they go concussed standing up. They don't fall down. So it was a carnival trick, like any of those things. People would go up with boxing gloves and start punching the kangaroos, and then they go, "Oh, we got another one! Come on in here, boys! Give him a rally on the drums." And we're not a very evolved bunch, Australians.
And then, so maybe jumping ahead here, are all the matches predetermined then? For Jim says for the most part, they are. Some wrestlers have gone against it.
For the most part, you have your promoter or whoever's running the show will tell you who's winning, who's losing, how long. Then you go out and do the rest of it yourself. But there are times where people have got into actual arguments backstage or whatever, and then gone out there and what we would call a shoot. You'd shoot on someone and actually try to beat them. So that's happened. It's happened before.
Was The Rock's father Rocky? What's The Rock's real name?
Rocky Johnson was his father.
Yeah. Was he a big deal? I've been watching Young Rock.
Yeah, he was a WWF at the time tag team champion. So he became a champion in WWF. So pretty big, not the likes of like a Hulk Hogan or someone like that, but still on the undercard underneath those guys.
Yeah.
And then kayfabe, Jim said, was Korean wrestling. Is that right?
No. So kayfabe is the term. It was a pro wrestling term that no one really knew about until, the last 20 years or so. Wrestling has become a lot more open to the public. I think everyone knows sort of what we do. So everyone's a bit more open, especially with social media and stuff like that. But kayfabe was protecting the business. So like, for example, kayfabe would be the bad guys would be in one bus and the good guys would be in another bus, so that no one knew that actually we were friends.
Yeah.
Right.
That's kayfabe. Same as like, you don't tell the fans how to do this certain thing.
It's essentially, it's like keeping the mask on.
Basically, yeah.
Have they had a gay wrestler, like a character that's homosexual, or like I assume there's gay men in the business that are just not out or whatever? Like any sport, the idea that there's no gay athletes is a load of rubbish. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But has there been a character that's like, like Glory Hole Joe or something?
Yeah.
He pulled out the butt plug.
Yeah. Well, I think wrestling, the same as anything, has evolved with the times. So, in the 80s and 90s, you might have gay wrestlers, which weren't actually wrestlers, which is people playing the characters. Where nowadays there are actually openly gay wrestlers. So,
Right. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so choosing the gimmick, personality, finishing move, and stuff like that, you know, do you get to choose that yourself? Do you and your manager, like, how's that work?
Yeah, I mean, Jim was very correct. Like on the independent circuit, you're sort of doing your own thing, trying to be seen. So people choose their own characters, their own gimmicks, what they want to wear, what they want to present themselves as. But then when you work for a big company, it's up to them. So when I got to WWE, they changed my name to Bronson Reed. They told me I had to be a good guy. I had to do this. I had to do certain things. And it's pretty much like any other television product. You have to read from a script. So it's up to them in the big leagues.
So what was and Bronson Reed, what was like your theme of your personality? And did you have like a finishing move or something like that you...
I did, yeah. So Bronson Reed was very much myself, actually, to be honest. Jonah is very, very much just the story of my character was that it took me 14 years coming up in the local Australian scene, trying to break up from a small town of Adelaide to get to the big United States and live the American dream. And I sort of did that. I became a champion. And my finishing move was the tsunami, and it still is, which is I jump off the top rope and land on a guy, but I'm 340 pounds. So people are pretty excited to see that happen.
When there are actual tsunamis and a lot of people die, do you ever go,
Yeah, sometimes. I wrestle in Japan sometimes, and when I first named the move that, I was like, oh, that's a bit controversial, I guess, when I go to
Which
Japan.
one's more dangerous?
You wouldn't like my finishing move. It's called the Chernobyl.
Toxic gas.
I can't fight in the Ukraine for many reasons. I just fart on someone's face.
Faces and heels. Jim said faces. That was your joke answer. Heels are the baddies. Faces are easy to beat. And then I said, was a jobber? And he goes, what I said a face was. So I think he was right there, right?
Yeah. So a jobber is someone that's an enhancement talent. So they always lose. They just come in to make someone look good, basically. But they'll lose in a minute, basically, to anyone. A heel is the bad guy, the antagonist, but a face is the good guy. So the face comes from baby face, meaning like, you got a baby face, so you're the protagonist, you're the good guy.
Without getting yourself in trouble with your fellow wrestlers.
That's okay.
Yeah, without doing that, what's the dumbest fucking themed outfit or character that you've ever seen where you're like, you're what? Oh, I'm a baby. I come out in a diaper and hit you with a bottle.
For shit.
Yeah. In the 90s, there was a lot of bad ones like that. And I think the worst one I saw was a character called the Goon, who was like a hockey goon. He wanted to get into hockey fights, but he would come out in the full hockey gear, gloves. He had the fucking everything. Yeah. He even had like the ice skates in the ring. Like
that's good. He cut people up.
It was ridiculous. Yeah. Probably the worst one I've seen.
The game.
I miss that. There was there was a very good cartoonish one. Okay, so the Bushwhackers, they were Australian, right?
They were New Zealanders, actually.
Bloody hell.
But everyone thought they were Australian because, of course,
like Crowded House.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, adopted Australians.
What other Australian professional wrestlers have there been besides you?
I mean, there's more nowadays than what there was. So when I was growing up, there was really no representation of Australia. But back home in the 60s, 70s, Australian wrestling was on TV, and that's when it was sort of popular in Australia. So guys like Larry O'Day or Spiros Arion are famous Australian wrestlers.
Did you ever experience some, well, not persecution? What's the word I'm saying? Where like discrimination in the sense that being Australian, where you weren't respected enough, very similar to Luke Longley when he entered the NBA and they were a bit sort of mean to him,
Yeah, 100%. So I think for a long time, the last 20 years, Australian wrestling hasn't been seen in the same light as like wrestling here in the United States or Japan or Mexico. So like trying to break into the American market was hard because they were like, Australians aren't talented. Just like a cliche thing, you know what I mean? That, they're not going to make it.
20 years ago in comedy, I'd do some shows in South Africa where they'd fly out some American acts and stuff like that. And the American acts now, because it's different now with Netflix and YouTube and all that type of stuff. But the American acts had this theory that they're the only ones doing stand-up, and they were always so surprised that we could do it.
Yes,
they,
yeah,
they,
100%.
they were just like, what? You're actually pretty good. And you'd be
Wait,
like,
people do jokes outside of
well,
America?
Not as good.
20 years ago, before YouTube and Netflix, before people, because there was no competitions, you'd go to countries like South Africa and the comics weren't very good. And now you can travel the world and they'll have a good comic in every fucking corner of the planet because people are watching it on Netflix and they know what level you have to be up to. Right. But without the exposure of it, they were just like, I'm just doing shit jokes and people are laughing. And people in other countries used to watch it like, this is pretty good. People used to be amazed in the 80s that people just could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just go,
I think it's very similar with wrestling. You know, have a lot of people now because of social media and everyone can stream live shows from Australia or wherever, that people actually getting seen more and go, oh, these wrestlers from Australia are pretty good, or they're the same standard as the Americans. But before that, it was harder.
Is there any country in the world where it hasn't broken, where you go there and you sell fuck all tickets? You show up and you go, I've told us not to come to Malta anymore.
I mean, I think one of the smaller shows I've ever done was in Malaysia, and I got smuggled across the border from Singapore by some crazy promoter. This was before WWE when I was trying to make a name for myself. And I think we ended up wrestling in this weird circus tent for maybe 7 people. Yeah. So it wasn't good.
He was the undercard to a couple of chickens.
Yes.
So what does it mean to take a bump? What is a receipt? Jim said a bump. You know the answers that Jim said.
Yes. So a bump
like
is
Forrest is distancing himself.
No. I was going to repeat your answers, but
I don't agree with what he said.
You got a little baggie.
It was
Get
already,
your key,
it was already
shove
funny
it in
when you
there.
said it. I'm not going to repeat it. Jim said you get a little baggie, you get a key, you shove it in there. Some people
Is that
accurate?
So bump is when you fall in wrestling. So, you know, when someone gets hit and they fall down, that's a bump. So a break fall.
What do you do in a fight? I assume you still call them fights, right? What do you do in a match or a fight when you can tell, oh shit, this person's injured? Do you stay in character or do you go, hey, we need a medic, fucking he's twisted his ankle?
I very much you have to try and stay in character. The show must go on. So it used to be
you
people
keep punching him. Are you all right?
Yeah,
you're all right. Hang in there, buddy.
Love taps.
You try and go to the pinfall or something quick. You know what I mean? You'll rush the match so it's over quicker. Unless it's something extreme. Nowadays, if someone breaks their legs or something, they'll just stop them. The referee will throw out the match like it should be done.
What injuries have you had?
I've blown up my PCL, completely exploded when I jumped off the top rope once.
What is a PCL for?
It's
for
the
the audience at home. I know.
So you have your ACL, which is on the front of your knee, and your PCL is the one that runs along the back of your knee.
Right.
So that exploded in a match that I had.
And they make a real popping noise, don't they?
They do, yeah. So other than that, everything else, touch wood, has been pretty good, other than I have a lot of scars on my head and like chips. I have like chipped bones in my elbows and I have arthritis in my knees. So
other than that.
You seem to have a lot of discoloring on your arms.
Yeah. That's from wrestling as well.
So then, and pinfall, I didn't even get that. You said I guess pinfall is when, you can tell me what it is.
Yeah, pinfall is when you actually win the match. So that's counting the 1, 2, 3, having their shoulders on the mat is a pinfall. And receipt, I didn't say receipt. Receipt is when someone hits you for real by accident, or they are doing it on purpose. You give them a receipt by giving it back to them.
Okay. I think I actually heard that one before.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice. And
Check
then,
the fucking receipt.
Yeah.
And then who is a jabroni?
So jabroni is like a term that was made famous by The Rock, actually. So he used to call people jabronis, meaning like, I guess like dumbass or loser, or it's just a derogatory term he would use.
Oh, I thought it was the Iron Sheik. It was that.
The Iron Sheik was the first one to use it, but then The Rock obviously is one of the most famous people in the world. He started using it.
I once did Opie and Anthony with the Iron Sheik, and he was not with us in the room. And I don't know whether you know, when you have memories, I'm not sure whether I was in the room when this happened or this is another time he was on it. But I don't know whether I've seen the footage or I was actually there. But he just pissed his pants on. He pissed his pants on Opie and Anthony, and there was a big fucking wet patch, and he was like, "Oh, fuck you, and everything," and he sort of stormed out, man.
Yeah, some of those old boys in wrestling are a bit far gone nowadays. So
Yeah, no, they needed concussion protocol
oh yeah,
for the Iron Sheik.
Wrestling move or cocktail? Okay, Royal Arrival. Jim said's a wrestling move.
not that I know of. So I only know the wrestling moves. So
Okay. The Snake Eyes, he said, was a cocktail.
no, that's a wrestling move. So that's when you pick someone up on your shoulder and you throw them onto the turnbuckle. Snake Eyes. I don't know why.
Wait, but what's a Royal Arrival?
I don't
It's
know.
a cocktail.
Yeah.
The cocktail, yeah.
What's in
I
it?
only know the wrestling moves.
We're not going to go through the recipes of all the drinks.
Why not?
You can look them up later.
I want to know if I'd enjoy it or not.
Stinger, Jim said's a wrestling move.
I mean, a stinger is a term in wrestling when you might fall wrong and you have a little bit of a stinger where your arm locks up or something like that. It could be a cocktail as well, for all I know.
All right. I didn't make these. Kelly, did you make these?
There was a list online.
Okay. No, so that's a wrestling. Okay. Bullshot, cocktail, Jim said.
Yeah, cocktail.
Okay. Irish whip, Jim said's a wrestling move.
It's a wrestling move. That's when you whip your opponent into the ropes. That's when you throw them across the ring. You all right with that, Jim?
Pretty good. Wolf ram, he said, was a wrestling move.
It must be a cocktail. I've never heard of a wolf ram.
Then you won't see it coming.
Gut wrench, Jim said's a cocktail.
It's a wrestling move. It's a gut wrench. So that's when you wrap your hands around someone's gut and you pick them up. That's a gut wrench.
Frog splash, he said, was a cocktail.
Wrestling move. So that's when you jump off the top rope and you land on someone, but you do the movement of a frog.
And you piss on them.
Missouri mule, he said, was a cocktail.
Cocktail, yes.
And then Boston crab, wrestling move. I know that's a wrestling move.
Yeah, it's a submission move. It's where you hold someone's legs and you wrench them back.
Yeah, you sit on their back and you wrench them. It's indefensible.
It's very painful.
Yeah.
Would any of these moves work in real life, or are they all just ridiculous?
Yes. No. A lot of these moves, especially the submissions like a Boston crab, they come from the Greco-Roman wrestling or shoot wrestling. So if you do them in real life, you can't
get out of the Boston
injure
crab.
someone. Yeah, you can injure someone really, really badly.
You can't. Let me tell you, I had
Do it to Jack right now.
I had a big brother in the Big Brother Big Sister programs when I was growing up because my dad wasn't around, and so I had this guy. He was a teacher, and we used to do it was professional wrestling was big then, and we used to pretend professional wrestling, and I'd always put the Boston crab hold would be my finishing move. I'd do that.
There you go.
Now. Cut to Jerry Sandusky when he was molesting kids.
Jerry Sandusky was your big brother?
No. One of the things in the deposition was he kept saying they do wrestling things with kids. And then I used to think back and I'd be like, yeah, I wonder if that was appropriate that my big brother was wrestling with me.
Just having a bit of fun with you.
No, because I used to do a joke about it. I said, well, maybe I was. Well, I said maybe it would give me an excuse at least for the things went in my life. Anyways, fun way to end the podcast for us.
Did he put anything inside you?
I don't think so. No.
Well, then you're good.
I think we're good. All right, now's the part of our show called Dinner Party
He used
Facts.
to sing "Man in the Mirror" to these concerts.
That's molestation for sure.
Indefensible. All right, Dinner Party Facts. Our guest's going to give us one fact, obscure, interesting, they can use to impress people about this subject at a dinner party, a bar, etc. What do you got first, Jonah?
I think probably one of the most interesting things in wrestling that obviously was kayfabe to a lot of people until modern days is that all the blood in wrestling is real. So a lot of people, even when I was growing up, my parents and stuff would be like, don't worry, that's fake blood. It's ketchup. It's whatever. But from my own experiences in wrestling for a long time, it's very much real. What we do is we have a tiny little blade, a little razor blade that would keep on us somewhere when we're wrestling. And then when it's time to bleed, you just cut your forehead.
Really? How
Yeah.
tiny?
You call it blading?
Blading is, blading or juicing.
Well, how tiny? Like, do you have to get a special wrestling blade?
Don't do
Basically,
that.
it's like a shaver razor blade. And over years, wrestlers have passed it down, tradition,
Yeah.
where you just cut
Using
it into
the
a
same
tiny
blade?
little bit. No, not using the same blade. No, you buy
Yeah,
a new
this is a
blade every
traditional
time.
blade.
And where would you hide it, Jonah? Where would you hide it?
So for me, I wear wrist tape. So I hide it in there. A lot of tough older wrestlers said they used to hide it in their mouth, which I would never do. I hide it there, or some people hide it in their gear. Some people give it to the referee to then throw it to them.
What was your walk-on song?
So I have my own custom music now, but in Australia, before I was in WWE and stuff, I used Scribe. Do you remember the New Zealand rapper Scribe?
No, I don't.
No, you don't?
I don't.
Jim's on the rap.
Jim.
I'd use tub thumping by Chumbawamba.
Chumbawamba. I mean, that's a good song.
All right, Jonah. Well, thanks for being here. You can find Jonah on his Twitter, IG at Jonah is here. So make sure to follow him and check out what he's up to and doing. Thanks for being here, Jonah.
Yeah, this was
thanks for
fun.
having
Thank
me.
you.
Jonah, thanks for being on the podcast. We appreciate it, mate. Good to hear the accent. If you're ever at a party and someone says to you, the blood in the wrestling is not real, take a small razor blade out and cut the cunt and then walk away. And I would say I don't know about that. Good night, Australia.